entire Brazilian team were there taking pictures with her. But look, at the end of the day, that's not what we're making the video about today. So, if you guys don't know, the Indiana Fever went and tweeted out, and by the way, this is like in the aftermath, and this is why I think a big reason why they're posting this stuff. This is in the aftermath of the reopening of the people are only.
Go back and look at that moment one more time. Players from the Brazilian national team lining up after the game, not to grab photos with their askin' own teammates, not with other Team USA stars, but with Caitlin Clark, just her. That's not normal fandom, that's worldwide recognition. That's the kind of pull that goes far, beyond box scores or league boundaries. And it's exactly why this moment makes some people uncomfortable, because it shatters the idea that her impact has been overstated. Here's what really drove it home. The Indiana Fever's social media team asked a simple question: where are you watching from? What followed wasn't a handful of replies from Indiana, it was an avalanche. Thousands of responses pouring in from more than 40 countries spanning 6 continents. Fans in Ireland staying awake until 3 a.m. just to catch tip-off. Viewers in the Philippines setting alarms before sunrise. Kids in Uganda proudly wearing her Iowa jersey. And none of this was staged, no promo push, no coordinated campaign, just real people in real places, rearranging their lives to watch one player perform in a league many of them didn't even know existed 2 years ago. That's not hype, that's global reach, and it's already changed the game.
Summer holidays for a lot of young people, teachers, and it is an interesting thing because it's during the summer, a lot more people can go and watch the games because they're able to stay up a little bit later. Netherlands, South Carolina, Oceania, Argentina, Kansas, Vegas, Vermont, Illinois, Minnesota, Texas, Florida, Massachusetts, Oregon, Texas, Milwaukee, Norway, New England, Zagreb.
This is the piece everyone keeps missing when the conversation turns to who Caitlin Clark's play fans supposedly are. Basketball isn't confined to the United States. It never has been. This sport lives everywhere. The Philippines has more registered basketball players per person than nearly any country in not the world. In Uganda, kids grow up playing on dirt courts with rims welded together from scrap. Slovenia produces NBA MVPs. Norway runs its own professional leagues. These aren't fringe audiences. These are deeply invested, basketball-first cultures. And when a player breaks through who plays at an elite level and makes the game thrilling to watch, those fans don't hesitate. They lock in. They always have. They did it for Stephen Curry during the Warriors' 2016 run. They showed up for Allen Iverson in the early 2000s. They were there for Magic Johnson in the 1,980 seconds. And now, they're doing the same for Caitlin Clark during WNBA summers. The Indiana Fever's tweet wasn't meant to make a statement, it was just a question, but the replies told a story anyway, one that completely undermines a narrative that's been pushed relentlessly over the past year. The global audience has already spoken.
Countries that we had: Mexico, that's a different country again, Chile again, Cardiff. I think we've seen Puerto Rico, haven't we? I'm trying to see how many. Singapore, it's another country. South Africa, Ghana. And that's the thing where it's like, basketball is absolutely a world game, and I do feel like this is almost like a hitting back on the Sue Bird thing, because, and I do feel like a lot of people were there in the comment section of that. A lot of people were there in the comment section below in the comment section, we're going like, yeah, when you're one. By the way, I can't remember. I don't even know what her name was.
Here's the context that actually matters. Just days before that tweet went out, a guest on a well-known sports podcast made a claim that's been popping up more and more in certain WNBA media spaces. She suggested that Caitlin Clark's following is made up mostly of people who don't even watch the games fans supposedly drawn to her for reasons unrelated to basketball. Then came the follow-up question: does she watch WNBA games? Her response was instant. No, she doesn't watch the games, but she supports women's sports. That clip spread fast, and for good reason. The contradiction was impossible to miss. Someone confidently analyzing the motivations of millions of fans while openly admitting she doesn't consume the product herself. And this wasn't a one-off moment. It fits into a larger trend where certain voices around the league have worked overtime to undermine Clark's fan base, framing their interest as anything but appreciation for the game. The issue is, that argument completely collapses when you look at the evidence, because the D's, people replying to Indiana's tweet, aren't passive spectators. They aren't scrolling highlights and calling it fandom. They're fans rearranging their lives, staying up late, waking up early, and making real sacrifices to watch live basketball.
I'm in Sweden to watch the Indiana Fever play because I hate the WNBA. It's the most bullshit thing ever. They're the most diverse fan base in the world. I don't think they are. Like, if you've ever been to the Philippines, it's just basketball mad. Philippine America started in Bangkok, Thailand after meeting Catch in 2013. From the Manila, Philippines, the longest thread, the more impressive, the more important it becomes. But it still doesn't matter. You can have every one of these threads. Caitlin Clark could pack out a 30,000 seater stadium.
Stop and consider what it actually takes to follow a WNBA game from overseas. Most Indiana Fever games tip off around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. That puts viewers in Ireland and the UK watching at 1 or 2 inches the morning. Fans in the Philippines are tuning in at dawn around 6 or 7 a.m. In Saudi Arabia, it's closer to 3 or 4 a.m. Those are brutal time slots. No one just stumbles into that. You don't catch those games by accident while flipping channels. You plan for them, you set alarms, you sacrifice sleep, and you do it over and over, not just for a headline matchup, but for ordinary regular season games in the middle of June and July. That's not hate watching. That's not chasing drama. That's real fandom built on respect for how someone actually plays the game. And the replies didn't stop there. Madagascar, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Chile, Norway, Singapore, Ghana. Every location pointing to the same truth, people finding Caitlin Clark's game compelling enough to push past serious logistical hurdles just to watch her compete.
You could have a fill out 15,000 seater arena in Sweden and sell it out in 10 seconds, and they would still say that it's just a bunch of racist Americans that showed up in Sweden. Like, they'll still put that narrative. You know, all those kids in Uganda. There was all the kids in Uganda that watched the Caitlin Clark games, and there were still some people saying, oh no, it was just racist Americans that brought Caitlin Clark gear and handed it to the kids. They didn't even know what they were wearing. And they were literally talking about how they watched.
This is why the international angle matters so much. When fans are watching from outside the consulates, United States, they aren't plugged into America's culture wars. They're not tracking domestic narratives or engaging in endless social media debates. They're simply watching the game and deciding one thing: is this worth my time? Global fans aren't moved by side controversies that dominate much of the WNBA conversation. In the U.S., their focus is straightforward. Can the player pull up from 30 feet? Can she thread passes that turn into instant highlights? Are the games competitive, fast, and fun to watch? That's the standard. And judged by that alone, Caitlin Clark has built a worldwide following on a scale the league has rarely, if ever, seen. The Indiana Fever's social media team didn't need to spin the moment or add commentary. They let the evidence stand on its own. Thousands of replies, dozens of countries, real engagement from people with no reason to care about this league except one thing: the quality of the basketball.
No one is following a basketball player for any reason other than basketball. And maybe in America they are, but I don't know. I'm not American. It's why it's such a crazy concept to me. It's a suggestion. And when you've got people staying up, and not people in the tens, people in the thousands, staying up till 1, 2, 3 a.m. to watch this one player play. I haven't seen that. As someone from Ireland, I have not seen that since Stephen Curry. That is not something that's happened since the Stephen Curry boom of 2016 with the Warriors. People in Ireland don't really stay up to watch NBA games anymore because there is not that one superstar.
Yet even with all of that evidence sitting out in the open, the reaction from certain parts of WNBA media was completely unsurprising. The story didn't change. If anything, it doubled down. Because accepting the reality of Clark's global fan base would mean admitting something uncomfortable, that maybe she really is that captivating as a basketball player. And for reasons that aren't simple and definitely aren't easy to talk about, some people who cover this league still aren't willing to go there. So the response becomes avoidance, excuses, claims that the international interest isn't real, that it's staged or artificially boosted, suggestions that fans overseas are somehow just extensions of American audiences. At one point, even viewers in Uganda were framed as stand-ins rather than actual fans. To believe that thousands of people across more than 40 countries are all faking their interest in Favent. Indiana Fever basketball requires an incredible amount of intellectual contortion. Watching that argument twist itself into knots is exhausting all by itself.
Do you guys agree with what I'm saying? Do you guys disagree with what I'm saying? Do you guys think that it's it's kind of relevant or completely irrelevant whether or not Caitlin Clark has fan base from overseas? Because let's be real, I don't think anything can be said or done that will change the minds of, for lack of a better way of describing them, the Hatelens. I don't think you're going to be seeing anything really change the minds of the Hatelens.
This is why this moment actually matters. It's bigger than one player getting popular. For decades, the WNBA has been trying to establish real international relevance. The league has hosted preseason games overseas. It's aggressively recruited international talent. It's leaned on the NBA's global footprint to expand its reach. And despite all of that effort, the results have been limited. International viewership has stayed small. Overseas merchandise sales barely move the needle. The league never truly broke through on a global scale, even with years of investment aimed in that direction. Then Caitlin Clark shows up and suddenly something changes. Not through a marketing campaign, not through a strategic rollout, but organically, fans in the Philippines buying Indiana Fever jerseys, kids in Uganda watching Iowa highlights on repeat, European basketball communities discussing her games in real time. This is the exact kind of global engagement the league has been trying to engineer for more than 25 years, and it's happening naturally because one player's game resonates across borders. The logical response would be to lean into it, to recognize this as a rare opportunity and build, to take fans who show up for Clark and gradually introduce them to the rest of the league. Some organizations are doing just that. The Fever certainly are. But there's a segment of WNBA media that seems more focused on questioning the fan base than welcoming it. And that tension exposes something uncomfortable about how the league has been discussed for years. If you've spent a decade arguing that the WNBA's challenges stem solely from lack of media, tension, or insufficient investment, it's jarring when a player breaks through despite those barriers. It suggests that maybe the on-court product matters more than the narrative ever allowed. That star power still counts. That compelling basketball can overcome structural disadvantages. That fans will find greatness even without institutional validation. Those ideas are threatening if your entire framework depends on a different explanation. So instead of adjusting some double down, they spin increasingly complicated theories about why this fan base doesn't count, why these viewers aren't real, why engagement from 40 different countries must somehow be illegitimate. But go back to that image of the Brazilian national team lining up for photos with Caitlin Clark. Those are professional athletes who've played on international stages their entire careers. They understand global star power. They recognize it immediately, and their reaction wasn't skepticism or confusion. It was the universal response athletes have when they're in the process. Presence of someone who's transcended the usual boundaries of the sport. The Indiana Fever's tweet didn't argue anything. It didn't demand validation. It simply asked a question, and the responses answered it clearly for anyone willing to look. The truth is simple. Caitlin Clark has built a global fan base because she plays basketball at an acta-du ever could's elite level in a way that's genuinely fun to watch. International fans found her for the same reason American fans once gravitated towards Stephen Curry. The skill jumps off the screen. The game is compelling. The entertainment value is undeniable. Everything else is noise created by people struggling to reconcile reality with the narratives they've invested in, and the longer they cling to those narratives in the face of overwhelming evidence, the more credibility they lose with the very fans they claim to represent. Because the fans in Ireland staying up until 3 a.m., they're not confused. They know exactly why they're watching, and no amount of media skepticism is going to talk them out of it. So where does this leave the league? The WNBA has a choice to make. It can embrace the global audience that's formed around its stated, most visible star and work to turn that momentum into long-term growth. Or it can allow a vocal protest corner of its media ecosystem to keep alienating those fans by questioning their motives and legitimacy. One path leads forward, the other leads back to the same stagnation the league has battled for much of its existence. And that decision is being made right now, in real time, by how moments like this are handled. The fans have already decided, they're tuning in from more than 40 countries, they're setting alarms, they're rearranging their schedules, they're buying jerseys, watching highlights, and engaging with the product. The real question is whether the WNBA is ready to meet them halfway, or whether protecting time bloods. Certain narratives will matter more than embracing the most significant growth opportunity the league has ever seen. That's what made the Indiana Fever's simple tweet so revealing. It wasn't trying to prove anything, it was just acknowledging reality. And sometimes, that's the most disruptive thing you can do.